Welcome to British Focus. If you're tired of political spin and want to get straight to the truth, you've come to the right place. Today, we dive into one of the most chaotic moments in the UK Parliament, an eruption of outrage, accusations, and deafening chants of shame, as MPs clashed over claims that could shake the very foundations of leadership. As Keir Starmer stood at the dispatch box, confident in his words, a single statement set off a firestorm of fury. Was it a slip of the tongue or a deliberate attempt to mislead the House? The uproar was immediate, the Speaker struggled to regain control, and the opposition wasted no time in demanding accountability. But this isn't just about a parliamentary debate, this is about trust, leadership, and the fate of the country. What really happened? Who is telling the truth? And what does this mean for the future of British politics? Stay with us as we break it all down. Let's get into the video.
Yesterday, the Farming Minister told a conference of farmers that farming is not high in the pecking order for this government. Given the heartless family farm tax, is his minister correct? Yes or no?
Farming's top of the agenda as far as I'm concerned. That's why we put £5 billion to support farmers in the budget. They failed to spend £300 million on their watch on farming, and we set out our roadmap, which has been welcomed by the NFU, as she very well knows. It was described as long overdue. I wonder who didn't do it before. The Ministerial Code says that ministers who knowingly mislead the House should resign. Why is he still here? The truth is, the country is paying the price of this endless cycle of chaos and distraction. The Tory economic crash means that millions of mortgage holders will pay thousands of pounds more next year. And the blame lies squarely at the door of a government more focused on the internal wars of the Tory party than the needs of the country. Does he not think that those responsible should hang their heads in shame? But he's suddenly taken such a keen interest in Greek culture, when he's clearly become the man with the reverse Midas touch. Everything he touches turns to, maybe the Home Secretary could help me out here. Rubbish. So will the Prime Minister do the country a favour? We'll have to check the tape again, Mr. Speaker, I think. So will the Prime Minister do the country a favour, warn us what he's planning next, so we can prepare ourselves for the disaster that will inevitably follow?
The facts speak for themselves. The standards went up under Conservative governments. What we need to know is who is benefiting. Mr. Speaker, everyone is asking who is benefiting from these changes. It's not teachers. Their pay is being capped. It's not parents. Their choices are being restricted. It's definitely not children. Their outcomes will get worse. So who is benefiting? It's the trade unions. The National Education Union sent out a tick list proving that after a decade and a half, they are finally getting their way. Why is the Education Secretary allowing trade unions to run her department and ruin children's education?
Alicia Katz.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said during Prime Minister's question in answer to the Leader of the Opposition that it was not correct that the current government has postponed the implementation of the Foreign Influence Registration Scheme. Yet on the 14th of August, the government website was updated and a statement was proactively issued by the Home Office stating that the first scheme will no longer expected to come into force in 2024. This is a postponement. So please can you insist the Prime Minister returns to the House to correct the record and make sure that we are not misled?
What I want to say to the Honourable Lady, she's been here long enough, and let me at least finish before you start chipping back at me. Can I say, I am grateful for allowing me to have notice of a point of order. But as she well knows, I am not responsible for the accuracy of the Prime Minister's answers in this House. But she has put the point on record, and I am sure that the Treasury bench will have heard her remarks. And let us see where we go from there.
All this, of course, is to allow us to get on with the vaccination programme, and if it had listened to the right honourable gentleman, Mr. Speaker, we would still be at the starting blocks, because he wanted to stay in the European Medicines Agency, Mr. Speaker, and said so 4 times from that dispatch box.
Keir Starmer.
nonsense. Don't let the truth get in the way of a pre-prepared gag. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister knows I've never said that from this dispatch box or anywhere else, but why would we want to be outside of the European Medicines Agency, which ensures all medicines in the EU are safe and effective? Mr. Speaker, let me give three without the details. The European Aviation Safety Agency, which deals with safety, the European Medicines Agency, and of course Europol, which I worked with for many years. These are the bits of the EU which we should be seeking to retain, not to throw away.
We will also seek to maintain membership or equivalent relations with European organisations which offer benefits to the EU, such as ERUPTS, the European Medicines Agency, Europol and Eurojust.
Yesterday, the farming minister told a conference of farmers that farming is not high in the pecking order for this government. Given the heartless family farm tax, is his minister correct? Yes or no?
Farming's top of the agenda as far as I'm concerned. That's
I came here to speak to this man, not your security. You have failed me.
Thank you.
I've been a Labour voter my entire life. You have failed to be the opposition. You have failed to ask whether lockdown was functioning.
Just behind. Can we just
Do you understand?
Shall we go on in?
Thousands of people have died because you have failed to do your job and ask the real questions. Well, I am telling you now, and I hope this goes out, you have failed this country. You have.
They've been on the front line keeping people alive. So I really don't need lectures from you about this pandemic.
You've got one. Why? Can we come in? Okay.
What are you doing?
Here's the landlord. That man is not allowed in my pub. He's the landlord. I'm not going to physically hurt him. That man. That's assault. I am not bothering you. I am not bothering him. That man is not allowed in my pub. Get out of my pub. Go on. Calm yourself down. Get out of my pub. Calm down. Sorry, can you keep out of the way? Thank you.
The truth is, the country is paying the price of this endless cycle of chaos and distraction. The Tory economic crash means that millions of mortgage holders will pay thousands of pounds more next year. And the blame lies squarely at the door of a government more focused on the internal wars of the Tory party than the needs of the country. Does he not think that those responsible should hang their heads in shame?
Just getting back to this defence budget, Starmer knew he wasn't going to put that up. I don't care what anyone says. He will have predicted, he'll have enough experts whispering in his ear and saying this is the situation. He more than implied that, the defence departments were going to get a fair share of money. They were going to be up in the ante. There was going to be new investment with them, bearing in mind the decline they've been in for the last 12 years or so, and it ain't going to happen. And you know what? He knew it wasn't going to happen. That almost verges on lie.
What matters is the facts. None of our plans involve tax rises for working people, and I'll spell it out. No income tax rises, no national insurance, no VAT. But what emerged from last night, and this is a very important takeaway, is that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, with his back against the wall, desperately trying to defend their record in office, resorted to lies, and he knows he was lying. And I don't say that lightly. Lying about our plans, lying about waiting lists, and lying about votes. And therefore the choice at the election is even clearer now, which is to turn our back, turn a page on the lies, the division and the chaos of the last 14 years and rebuild the country with Labour.
We're definitely going to be in recession, that's for sure. Yeah. And they talk about this 22 million black hole that they've found. But if they really want to be honest with it, evidently 9 billion of that is down to pay rises for the civil service. So they're all looking after their own type of people, and I just feel Labour now are just too much. You know what I mean? Would I put Starmer and Reeves and the other one, Rain or something, in charge of my business? The answer's no. I mean, but they're running
you wouldn't
the
have
country.
Keir Starmer running, running your bath by the sound of it.
Well, I wouldn't put him in charge of a broom, if I'm being honest with you. And that's being polite.
Yeah.
They're just absolutely, they're not for the working people. They're all for giving money for people that don't contribute nothing.
Are you now feeling the pressure? Because I think there's a petition that's currently
Your approval
online
ratings have dropped.
1.9 people who want the election to go again.
It's now
Is
over
it 2 million now?
It's now just over 2 million.
Do you feel the pressure?
Look, I remind myself that very many people didn't vote Labour at the last election.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that many of them want a rerun. That isn't how our system works.
I think this is a matter for the Labour Party, Michelle. When you ride to power on the sort of preachings of probity, honesty and reforming the way in which Parliament operates, and then you see grubby little WhatsApp groups like this happening, you do ask yourself, why would they do that? And I think a lot of people get their lead from their leader. And I personally think Keir Starmer is extremely duplicitous. I think this is a duplicitous way to lead your life. And for me, Labour have got to deal with it in the way they decide to deal with it. And if you follow through from what they said before the election, they really should take some quite radical action. But that's a matter for them.
What do you determine to be radical action?
Well, I think, as Barry says, they've got to have an internal investigation. There are clearly other people on this WhatsApp group. I don't know the facts, but if some of this stuff is true, then it's pretty damning towards their constituents. Yeah. But in answer to your question on by-elections, I've had a look. It would be a juicy by-election in Mr. Gwyn's seat. So I think it would be for us manna from heaven if he were to resign or any of the others were to resign. It's a perfect time for us to be fighting by-elections. So arguably an own goal by the Labour Party, but I think it's a matter for them.
What a spectacle we've just witnessed. If there's one thing this fiery debate has made clear, it's that British politics is as turbulent as ever. The scenes in Parliament, the shouting, the accusations, it all paints a picture of a system stretched to its limits, where truth and political survival are constantly at odds. But let's step back and take a closer look at what this all really means. At the heart of the chaos is a fundamental issue: trust. Can the public truly believe in those who stand before them, making grand promises, only to be caught in contradictions? Keir Starmer, a man who has built his leadership on the promise of honesty and integrity, now finds himself in a precarious position. His words, once delivered with confidence, have been picked apart, challenged, and used against him. And in politics, perception is everything. The opposition seized this moment with both hands. The chants of shame weren't just noise. They were a calculated attack designed to erode Starmer's credibility. And while parliamentary theatrics are nothing new, this level of public humiliation could leave lasting scars. If there's anything the British public despises, it's hypocrisy, and Starmer's critics will waste no time using this against him in the weeks and months to come. But let's not ignore the bigger picture. The Tories, despite their gleeful takedown of Starmer, have their own skeletons rattling in the closet. The economic downturn, the cost of living crisis, and the internal fractures within their party mean they are far from the strong, united front they pretend to be. The irony of their attacks on Starmer is that many of the same accusations, dishonesty, inconsistency, and failure, have been leveled at their own leadership time and time again. So, what does this mean moving forward? For Starmer, this is a defining moment. He can either weather the storm, come back stronger, and prove to the public that he is still the man to lead Labour into the next election, or he can falter, allowing his opponents to tighten their grip on the narrative. How he handles this controversy will speak volumes about his resilience and his ability to navigate the brutal world of British politics. For the Conservative government, this spectacle may have provided temporary relief from their own scandals, but the public is watching closely. They can celebrate a moment of political victory, but it won't erase the deep dissatisfaction many feel towards their handling of the country. The battle lines have been drawn, but the real war is still to come. British politics is in a state of flux, and moments like these remind us of just how fragile leadership can be. The next election will be a referendum not just on policy but on trust, and right now, both major parties have a lot to prove. That's all for today on British Focus. If you've enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to stay tuned for more updates and analysis on the biggest stories shaping our country. Thanks for watching, and until next time, Take care.